Here's a follow-up commentary from CNN, Frederica Whitfield, on the news conference, and she's got a reporter on scene. Now, let me say this. What I think happened was when the shooting and everything went down, and it went down basically, in the late afternoon, everything was calm. Then somebody went out there and started telling a lie because they didn't know what exactly happened, but they started telling a lie about somebody being shot in the back. Okay? And that's how the crowd probably got whipped up, and then people took the excuse to take retribution against businesses that hadn't treated black people right in the area, and then the whole thing just escalated out of control from that point forward. But it's people putting out false information that tends to start shit. And Frederica Whitfield is going to put out some false information, and she just heard the damn news conference. All right, let me play this thing, and then I'm going to point out what she said that was false.
The Milwaukee Police Chief Edward Flynn there. Still lots of questions about the circumstances leading up to the shooting of the suspect, Sylville K. Smith. You heard from the police chief there, who said there is an image that comes from the body cam video. The entire video he has yet to see, but he says there is an image that did show that that suspect was holding a gun. And
all right, and that's wrong. The police chief saw the whole video. It was the mayor who said that he saw an image of the man holding a gun. You got to get the information right. And you just saw the damn thing. You didn't even take any notes, and you got it wrong. Damn.
The police chief's view, this was a credible and lawful shooting, but still lots of questions about what precipitated that shooting. Aside from that suspect having a gun. Ryan Young is covering the events there that have transpired as a result or after that police-involved shooting. There was looting, there was some buildings such as the BP station behind you that were set afire. And so, Ryan, you've been also interacting with a lot of people there. People in the community, they heard that press conference from the mayor as well as the police chief. Does this fill in any blanks for them, or does it just elicit yet more questions?
No, Fred, to be honest, I don't think people were listening to that news conference. In fact, a lot of them feel like it's too late. The folks who are out here are very angry. In fact, every one of us who works out here have just spent the last 10 or 15 minutes or so getting a barrage of insults thrown our way because they feel like we have been ignoring the problem here in this community for far too long. They point to this BP as one of the places where they've had issues before. In fact, a few weeks ago, they believe one of the people who worked here came outside and fired his gun toward young people. No one was hit in that incident, and the community felt like that situation wasn't investigated hard enough. So they believe that was part of the reason why this place was targeted last night. To go with what's been said so far, I would honestly believe right now, if they wanted something to be done, they need to release as much information as possible, because on the other side of this building, there's almost 100 people here who are still very angry about what happened, and they're talking about issues that have been going on in this community for quite some time, and they feel like this is all going to end in the same way. So people are saying, yes, this incident may have happened and the young man may have had a gun, but they simply do not believe it. And there are several people who are walking through this community saying that he did not have a gun. So until some evidence comes forward, I think it's going to be hard for them to believe that. You talk about the National Guard. Right now, talking to people here, they think that would be the wrong way to handle this, that if the National Guard shows up, there are people who are talking that they are willing to step up and go out in the streets and face them, and that more of this can happen. Several community leaders said there's a reason why the 4 businesses were targeted in this community. There are businesses in this community that have been known to have issues with the black community for quite some time. So when you look back this direction and you see the damage that's been left here and the fact that officers still remain on the scene, you understand what everybody's kind of holding their breath for, because what happens next. And like a young man just said to me right now, the only reason why we're here, he believes, is because of the fact that this was burned down. He thinks if it wasn't burned down, that none of us would have shown up. So that is part of the reason why he thinks that this is starting to bring attention to the issues here in the Milwaukee area. So they're talking about that all the time, and that's a real feeling here. And I'm talking about real passion, where people are coming up here and just yelling at us constantly because they want to know what's going on and when will it change.
Lots of frustration. So Ryan, sit tight for a moment, because I want to bring into the equation CNN senior law enforcement analyst Tom Fuentes on the phone with us. So Tom, perhaps you had a chance to listen to the press conference of the Milwaukee mayor, Tom Barnett, and the police chief, Edward Flynn. And while the police chief said he has yet to see, yet to interview, or an interview has yet to take place involving the officer that fired the weapon, killing the suspect, but the police chief said he did see an image, a still image from the body cam video that has yet to be, fully viewed, showing the suspect had a gun. And
that's not true. That's not true. She did it again. The police chief has seen the complete body cam video. So you need to stop making stuff up. It's the mayor who just saw a still image. The police chief saw the still image, and he also saw the body cam video.
And he went on to say, at least according to the mayor, that he had a gun in his hand, quote unquote, and it had 23 rounds in his gun. But then, of course, the question is, Tom Fuentes, just because someone has a gun, does that mean that indeed it is a credible and lawful shooting, which were the words of the police chief? What generally would have to happen to help justify this shooting? That's the question many people, particularly in that community, have.
Well, that's pretty simple, actually, Frederica. If the person threatens the officer with a gun, especially if the officer yells to drop it and he refuses to comply, the officer has the right to use deadly force, believing that his own life is in danger. Or if the subject runs off after threatening the officer with a gun, then he has the right to stop that subject because he poses a threat to other members of the community that he may encounter as he's trying to flee, being armed that way, being armed and dangerous. So if what the mayor said and the police chief said is true, then it certainly sounds like a completely justified shooting. Now, it's not even 24 hours, so they have to do the investigation, but it seems like nowadays nobody really cares for the details of the investigation that could take days, weeks, months, the forensic work to be done, the analysis of all of the body cams and radio transmissions and all of the other aspects, plus the interview of the main officer himself whenever that takes place. So it's just, and the fact that we've had these riots break out when it's been a white police officer and an unarmed African-American male. In this case, apparently you have an African-American officer being threatened with a gun, and it doesn't seem to make a difference to the community. They don't believe it, and people that came into that community from outside the community, probably could care less whether it's justified or not. They're going to cause trouble, and that was their intent last night, and maybe their intent again tonight.
Okay, and Ryan, back to you there in Milwaukee.
Yeah, real quick. See, and this is the other thing that troubled me. My understanding, and again, I haven't seen it, I haven't confirmed it, but it's my understanding by reading a couple of things that there was a massive call put out on social media for people to come to that area. And it may have been that call got answered not only by the residents in that area, but a large number of people from outside the area who really, don't give a shit. And they may have been the ones to, really, start throwing rocks at cops and doing other stuff. Now, the businesses being burned, in my opinion, that was the neighborhood targeting those guys to get back at them for, dastardly stuff that had been done in the past. But all the other violence and stuff, I want to put that off on people coming in from outside the community. And all of this probably because somebody told a lie about the guy being shot in the back. So anyway, let me continue with this particular vid.
Again, the police chief saying, and he kind of paraphrased, his synopsis of what may have happened, saying that, it was a suspicious stop in the first place as to why the police officer pursued Sylville K. Smith. But the police chief says, but this event took 20 to 25 seconds. You know, it led to a foot chase. It ended up in a fenced area between two houses. The suspect turned and had a gun in his hand. I know that, Ryan, your producer also caught up with the Wisconsin State Senator, Lena Taylor, who also had some sentiments conveyed on all that has transpired, from the police-involved shooting to even the burning of the buildings and the looting that has since taken place.
All right, I'm not even going to plug it, what she said. Excuse me, I got something caught in my throat. I'm not even going to play what she said, because though she did have some valid points, it still doesn't justify, you know, what the people did. So, and it's not even, it wasn't even her district. So I'm basically going to just roll past her soliloquy. Somebody else can pick that up if they choose to.
The state senator, Lena Taylor, there, clearly underscoring they want more answers, Ryan, there in Milwaukee, but this really is representative of much bigger issues. Are you hearing a chorus of that sentiment that's very similar there?
Absolutely, and a lot of people are frustrated at the fact that we're focusing on the buildings behind us and not the community paying. Their ideas, they want things to change. I almost feel like that news conference, you almost wish there was a speaker to be placed out here so people who are out here who are trying to actively protest could hear it. They can't hear those words. And on the other side, I did talk to a African-American officer off camera this morning, and he was telling me how frustrated he is because he believes this is not the cases that have happened around the country. He feels this one is different, and he feels like all officers are being painted with a single brush. He says it's tough to go home to his family to try to explain what is going on in the community when he feels they're doing some good work in this community. A larger conversation needs to happen, but I'm not sure with everyone yelling right now, anyone's going to hear it.
All right, Ryan Young, thank you so much in Milwaukee. We're going to continue to follow that story.
All right, so it only takes a tiny spark and probably a lie to have somebody or a situation erupt into flames, and that's only because of the underlying issues that a community is facing and the frustration in some cases has boiled over, and now you got a major protest even without knowing all the facts. Because if that video shows that that guy had a gun in his hand, which the police chief says he did, so does the mayor, that he was facing the officer, which the police chief says he was, so does the mayor, and that the officer told him to drop that weapon, he didn't drop that weapon, and instead he may be seen as beginning to bring that weapon to bear. I'm sorry, I'm shooting. I'm sorry, I'm shooting. I'll answer the questions later, but I'm not going to give this guy an opportunity to shoot first, and then you know, he's answering questions later while I'm you know, I'm pushing up a daisy somewhere. So obviously this is a highly volatile situation. I'm going to follow it. I think I saw Super Coon Sheriff David Clark doing an interview. So if that's in fact the case, I'm going to check it out, and if it's anything of meaning, I'll put up a video on him as well.